You walk into a house after weeks of being away and there's a glass in the sink, still wet. Doesn't that feel a little too recent to ignore?
I remember standing outside my front door, just holding the key for a second longer than usual, like I needed to get used to being home again. I'm Mildred, 32, and I'd just been discharged that afternoon after weeks in the hospital. Everyone kept telling me not to worry, that my house had been taken care of while I was gone, so I expected things to feel normal. But the moment I stepped inside, something felt slightly off. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. The air smelled different, like someone had aired the place out but used a scent I didn't recognize. Even the living room looked the same, but the throw blanket was folded in a way I'd never do. Then I noticed a glass sitting in the sink, still wet.
Seeing a wet glass isn't something you forget. So if no one was supposed to be here, who used it and when?
I stood there, trying to make sense of it, because I knew I hadn't been home. And that's when I heard something, moving deeper inside the house. I didn't react right away. I think part of me was still in that hospital mindset, where every sound had a reason, every movement came from someone doing their job. So I just listened, standing there with my bag still hanging off my shoulder, waiting for it to make sense. The house stayed quiet for a moment. Then there was another sound, softer this time, like something being placed down carefully. I glanced back toward the front door, almost instinctively, like I might have missed someone coming in behind me, but it was still closed, locked. Exactly how I left it after stepping inside. I told myself it could have been something simple, maybe a window left open, something shifting. My mom had mentioned stopping by once or twice while I was gone. Maybe she'd cleaned up, moved things around, forgot something behind. That would explain the smell, the blanket, the glass. It didn't explain why the house felt occupied. I set my bag down slowly by the door, trying not to make noise this time. My body still felt weak, but my senses were sharper than they had been in weeks. Every small detail seemed louder now. As I took a few steps forward, I noticed something else. My hallway light was already on. I never leave it on. Not during the day, and definitely not at night. And it wasn't just on. It cast a steady, warm glow down the corridor, like someone had turned it on recently. I paused again, halfway between the door and the hallway, my mind trying to catch up with what I was seeing. If someone had been here earlier, then why did it feel like they still were? I looked down the hallway, holding my breath without realizing it, and that's when I heard it again. Clear this time. A quiet, deliberate movement coming from inside my house. The sound wasn't loud, but it didn't belong to an empty house. I stayed exactly where I was, eyes fixed down the hallway, waiting to see if it would happen again. For a second, nothing moved. No shadows, no shifting light, just silence stretching a little too long. I tried to reason through it. Houses make noise. Pipes, wood, pressure, especially after being closed up for weeks. That's what I told myself as I took another step forward. Then it happened again. A soft, controlled sound. Like a drawer closing, but gently, like whoever did it didn't want it to be heard. That's when something inside me shifted. I called out, not loudly, just enough to test the space. Hello? My voice sounded unfamiliar, thinner than I expected. No answer. I reached for my phone, holding it tightly now, but I didn't dial anyone yet. I wasn't ready to explain something I didn't understand. Instead, I kept moving, slowly, carefully. As I passed the coat rack near the hallway, I stopped. There was a coat hanging there, not mine. Dark, fitted, slightly worn at the sleeves, but definitely not something I owned. Next to it, a pair of shoes. Also not mine. I stared at them longer than I should have, trying to convince myself there was a simple explanation. There wasn't one. Whoever was inside my house wasn't hiding. This wasn't a break-in. It didn't feel rushed or careless. It felt settled. I took a step back from the coat rack, my chest tightening, not from panic, but from the realization that this had been happening for a while. Not minutes, not hours. Longer. I finally tapped Clarice's name and lifted the phone to my ear. She picked up almost immediately. "Hey," she said, casual. Too casual. I didn't waste time. "Has anyone been in my house?" There was a small pause, not long, but noticeable. "What do you mean?" she asked. I looked around as I spoke, lowering my voice without thinking. There are things here that aren't mine. A coat, shoes, and I just heard something. She let out a soft breath, almost like a laugh. "Mildred, you've been gone for weeks. Things might feel different when you come back." Different. It didn't sit right. Before I could respond, I heard it again, clear this time. Footsteps. Not distant, not imagined. Inside. I turned slowly toward the hallway, my grip tightening on the phone. One of the doors further down, the one across from my bedroom, shifted slightly, then opened, and someone stepped out. I didn't recognize the moment right away. My mind lagged behind what I was seeing, because it wasn't a stranger. It was Clarice, standing there, already inside my house. For a second, nothing made sense. Clarice lowered her phone slowly, like the call we were on didn't matter anymore. Like she'd already decided this moment wasn't going to be explained, it was just going to be accepted. "You're back earlier than I thought," she said. Calm, measured, not surprised, not even slightly unsettled. I kept staring at her, trying to match the version of her in front of me with the one who had just been on the phone pretending not to understand what I meant. "Why are you here?" I asked. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. She shifted her weight slightly, still holding my keys in her hand. I noticed that now. Not just any keys, mine, the spare I kept hidden. "I've been taking care of things," she said. Taking care. I looked past her, into the room she had stepped out of. The bed inside was neatly arranged, too neatly. A bag rested against the wall, partially unzipped, clothes inside. Not packed. Used. "You've been staying here?" She didn't answer right away, just gave a small shrug. "You weren't here," she said. It landed wrong. Not concerned. Not temporary. Final. I swallowed, trying to keep the conversation grounded. "Who gave you the keys?" She didn't hesitate this time. "Mom did." Something shifted in my chest. This wasn't just her decision. It meant something had already been decided, without me. For a moment, I just stood there, trying to understand how far this had already gone without me knowing. Clarice didn't move. She stayed exactly where she was, like she belonged there more than I did. "I didn't think you'd come back to everything all at once," she said, almost carefully now. "We were just making things easier." "We?" I asked. She exhaled, like she'd been expecting that. "Mom, mostly. We talked while you were in the hospital. You were out of it for a few days and things weren't clear. Someone had to handle things here." Handle things. I looked around again. The furniture, the light, the way everything had been subtly adjusted. Not destroyed, not taken, just shifted into something that wasn't mine anymore. "You moved in," I said quietly. She didn't deny it. "At first, just to check on the place," she replied. "But then it made sense to stay. Bills, mail, maintenance. It was easier if someone was here." "And no one thought to ask me?" She hesitated. "We didn't want to stress you," she said. "You needed to focus on getting better." It sounded reasonable, almost thoughtful. But standing there, hearing it in that calm tone, it didn't feel like care. It felt like something had been decided for me, something I hadn't agreed to. I stepped further into the hallway, closer to her now. "You went through my things." Another pause, smaller this time. "I organized a few things," she admitted. That word, organized, felt heavier than it should have. I pulled out my phone again and called our mother. She answered, and within a few seconds, everything Clarice had said was confirmed. The same language, the same reasoning. They thought they were helping. They had crossed a line. "I want you to leave," I said, looking directly at Clarice. She didn't move right away. For a second, it felt like she might argue, like she might actually believe she had a right to stay. Then, slowly, she nodded. It took time, longer than it should have. She packed deliberately, quietly, like she was unwinding something she had already settled into. By the time she walked out, the house was quiet again. But not the same kind of quiet. Over the next few days, I started putting things back. The blanket, the hallway light. Small routines that reminded me this was still my space. But something had shifted in a way I couldn't fully undo. Standing there alone again, I realized it wasn't just about someone being inside my house. It was about how easily they had stepped in, and how close I came to not having a place to come back to at all.
It's strange how space can still look like yours, even after someone had just arranged it. So how often does changes like that happen with no one noticing it?